loud for you guys at the front? No, that's okay. So just need a little bit of volume. So, no, first of all, thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate it's Queen's birthday weekend. It's 7 o'clock on a Monday night. Feels like Sunday. For boarders, it probably feels like chapel, but it's not. This is just an opportunity to give you a little bit more information about this particular trip to Stewart Island, October 1st to the 10th. So thanks for coming and giving up half an hour of your Monday night. While we're going there, it literally tumbled into my desk about a month ago. If the school really enjoy, as you know, we have a proud story and tradition and history of our service programs, domestic and overseas. We've been going to Cambodia for 5 years with year 12 students. If COVID hadn't happened in 2020, that was going to be a sort of a pinnacle international service trip year. The year 13s were off to a jungle hospital in Guatemala. We had year 12s off to Cambodia, and year 11 engineers and medics were off to a rural hospital in a lagoon in the Solomon Islands. So it was going to be an amazing year 2020, and all of that got wiped out with COVID, alongside most of our domestic service programs as well, apart from a few key ones. 2020, no Cambodia. 2021, no Cambodia. 2022, no Cambodia. And so we thought at the beginning of this year, one of my sort of KPIs was to get together a residential service trip off the ground for our senior students, particularly those leaving this year who've never had the chance to do that amazing trip to Cambodia. Quite literally, by chance, an appeal went out from the Rural Administrative Advisor down in the Diocese of Dunedin, which covers Rakiura and Stewart Island. They had a project, an environmental project, I'll talk about it in a minute, to do some gardens and bush restoration. And they offered it to all the schools of New Zealand, all the Anglican and the Presbyterian schools. That's quite a few schools, and all of those schools, like ourselves, were looking for service opportunities. And about 10 schools said, we're interested, send us more information. And I said, I can guarantee we've got 10 students who want to go. So we got the gig, okay? So we beat the competition, so we get to go to Stewart Island. That's how we're ending up going there. The appeal came from the Anglican Diocese of Dunedin. This presentation won't take too long. I know a few of you have been to Stewart Island. I've not been. So for all of us will be going, who will be probably for the first time. Here's just a little brief snippet of what the place is like, just 1 minute long. Malachi, I need control of the slides. There we go. And volume. So we hope to be on that plane. There's only a couple of them. So there are little snippets, pretty rugged, pretty rural. There's surprisingly not many videos out there on YouTube about Stewart Island. I've been looking all week and only found a couple that weren't people's sort of private family trips. So a little bit of information there. So you know where it is. It's the sort of southernmost part of New Zealand. It's right down the bottom of New Zealand. It's quite a big island. We're going, it's booked for October the 1st to October the 10th, which is the second week of the 3-week school holiday at the end of term 3. So those of you in year 12 this year, you'll go on a leadership camp. I think leadership camp Sunday to Tuesday. Then we leave on the following Saturday, and then we come back on the Monday, so you still get the final week of the holidays before we go back in term 4, which could be quite a significant thing for those doing, for study, for exams and all that sort of stuff. So it's that sort of middle slight Saturday to a Monday in the term 3 holidays. Who's it for? Well, initially it was for service program students that have got a recognised track record in our service programs over the last few years, who are in year 13, who've missed out on Cambodia. Okay, they wouldn't have got to go on that big service trip. Year 12s, next year, the Cambodia, hopefully, will be operating. We'll be back in Cambodia next year as well. We'll hopefully be back in Stewart Island as well at the same time to carry on with this project as well and this program. So we'll wait and see. We don't know what next year holds, but we're hoping that we'll have Cambodia back running next year as well. So that was who it was initially for. Group size, we planned for 10 initially, but I've actually spoken to all the tourist operators, the accommodation today, and we can go up to sort of 16 to 20 if more want to come than that 10. All depends on the response from you guys after you've heard about this tonight and others who will be watching this later on. If we go for a bigger group, we have to split into 2 groups. We'll recruit another member of staff because the tourist operators on Stewart Island, they're very geared up for small groups, like boat trips for 12 and wild Kiwi experiences for maximum group size of 6, I think, for obvious reasons, trying to hunt down a timid bird in the wild. You don't want to be going there with 20 teenagers with their torches and iPods and everything else. So small groups for some of the operating, but they can cope with just split ourselves up into smaller groups. Okay, like I said already, why are we going there? Well, the opportunity arose, and of course Cambodia's not happening this year. How are we going to get there? The plan is to fly from Hamilton to Invercargill via Christchurch on Air New Zealand flights. We'll stay overnight in Invercargill, then we'll take the 30-minute bus trip down to Bluff, and then from Bluff we'll take the ferry. Apparently you've got to do at least one ferry trip. It's quite the experience, especially at that time of year. Okay, I don't know if you've got your sea legs or not, but you'll have them by the time you've finished on the trip. Okay, it's only an hour on the ferry, so if you are feeling a little bit sick, your ordeal will soon be over. It won't last too long, but apparently I've been told by people who've been and lived down this area, you've got to go on that ferry at least once. On the way back, we'll take the small flight back. Okay, we'll fly back from Oban on Stewart Island on the small plane. I think it's a maximum number of 8 on that plane, so there'll be several trips. It's a 20-minute flight to Invercargill. Okay, you get to see it from the air, which is one of the reasons why we'll do that particular trip. Okay, there is the option of helicopter flights as well. That's another thing we could build in, but I'll talk about how we build those in a bit later on. What we're going to be doing there, well, it's 2 parts of this. Obviously the service part, we're running it a bit like we do the Cambodia trip. We do the hard work, we do the mahi first, and then we have the fun. And that's exactly what we do in Cambodia. We do the service component first, and then we get to explore where we are and do a little bit of tourism whilst we're there. The service component is mostly environmental service, and we're going down to St Andrew's Anglican Church. That's where the appeals stemmed from initially in Oban, on that sort of northeast corner of the island, just getting closer and closer to it. You can see it there, and it's up the top of the hill there, very close to the beach. Then it's just up on that hill there. This is kind of the area. This photograph is quite an old photograph. This is from this is Google Earth Street View, so I don't know when it was taken, quite some time ago, because apparently you can't hardly see the church anymore and you can't see the drive. It's all pretty much overgrown. That's from Street View, that's from Street View, and that was a photograph taken last week. So it's changed quite a bit since the Street View pictures were taken by the Google operators a few years ago. So their appeal is, what they've asked is they want to restore that site, that space. They want to put in native gardens. Apparently it was a beautiful garden 100 years ago. It was a stunning place to be, St Andrews in Oban. They want to restore that. And then the actual church itself, there's a small Anglican congregation there, faithful few. They worship together with the Presbyterians on the island every Sunday. They use each other's churches for that. What the plan is to turn that church into a kind of a retreat centre, a place of refuge and relaxation as well, and having gardens to reflect that space as well. So that was the appeal, and that's what we've grabbed to start that work this year. I think we'll be in those gardens for 3 days. We can get a lot done with 10 people, get even more done with 20 people. Okay, so it's going to be a lot of work to clear the site and then plant and plan the garden that will go in there. For the group that gets to go, part of the work of term 3 whilst we're at school, we'll just have a little fortnightly or weekly meeting, and we'll be in touch with the people on the ground there, and we'll plan the garden. You will decide what it looks like, what goes in there, the plants that will be planted, and trees that will go in there, etc., etc. So it will have your hand all over it. There'll be something you can go back to in years to come. You'll be able to go back with your kids in years to come. Those of you who've been lucky enough to go to Tihoy, you know, on the Tihoy Community Day, you can go back and see the few trees you planted on that day, and that's quite a special thing to do. Well, this will be like that on a much larger scale, be something that you can go back to in years to come and see your legacy. There's a lot of work going on in Rakiura about becoming pest-free and predator-free. A number of the islands around Stewart Island, which we will visit, are pest-free. Rakiura isn't quite there yet, and so we'll work with some local conservation groups and work to explore their work, get to know something about the work, and hopefully do some trapping and pest control for a day ourselves, which will involve tramping and getting into the bush, getting into those nooks and crannies on the island. Bottom left picture there, I mean, that's all the rat traps just in the area around Oban, so it's quite an extensive project going on there as well. And the local primary school, Half Moon Bay Primary School, they're very involved in this project as well. Okay, and hopefully we'll connect with them when we're down there as well. But of course, it will be their school holidays as well as ours, but they don't go too far. Okay. What else are we doing? Obviously, the tourism stuff. We're experiencing the island. We're going to go all that way and not see something of the space in the island. We're going to use a local operator, Rakiura Adventures. Their boat skippers have been working the islands for 30 odd years in some cases. A traditional family-run operator that basically tailor-make experiences to the group. And again, something else we would be doing in term 3 as a group, you would be deciding what exactly do you want to do while you're there. Okay, so if everybody wants to go and find the big sharks, we'll go and find the big sharks. If everybody wants to go deep in the bush and go tramping and stuff like that, we'll do that. Okay, there's lots of things we can do there, and there'll be more to do than we have time to do. Ulva Island is apparently a must-see. It's a beautiful island, it's pest-free, and the wildlife there is stunning. You know, you'll get off the boat and there's sea lions. You'll get off the boat, in the dusk you'll see kiwis. It's meant to be quite a remarkable experience to go to Ulva Island. We'll go there. That's one of the boats that we will travel on, very traditional looking vessel. And some of the other trips we'll be doing on boats, and those other boats will be into the nooks and crannies of the island. We can go snorkeling if you want to with them. We can't go diving though, some of you dive. Airfields is in Bluff. Okay, Bluff is where all that cage diving controversy was going on a few years ago with the great whites, where local operators were chumming the water and feeding, and the sharks got very aggressive and started to identify boats as a supply of food, and obviously not every boat feeds the sharks, so the sharks started attacking the boats but now there's no more chumming of the sea from Bluff. So the great white experience is restricted a little bit more. Snorkeling is an option. There's a snorkeling safari we can go on. The water's pretty crystal clear out there. It's pretty amazing. Full kit involved. They suit you up so you won't be too cold in the water. And what you can see under there is quite remarkable. I think there's the 7-gill shark, which is unique to Stewart Island. You can see down there as well. It'll be quite interesting. Fishing, they offer fishing charters as well. If you want to go fishing for a half a day, we can do that down there. The wildlife is meant to be absolutely stunning. Okay. And one of the trips we can go on is to visit an old 18th century whaling station, or the remains of a whaling station, and you spend a half day on that island as well, exploring around that space and looking at the history of that as well. Okay, the museum's meant to be amazing in Oban and Stewart Island. We'll get to know something of the history of the place, Tanta Whenua, the colonial history, all of that stuff, all the years, the centuries, through that museum experience as well, whilst we're down there and getting to meet the locals as well. Apparently quiz night in the pub on the Sunday is something to believe. It's meant to be absolutely awesome if you can get a table. Okay, so that's on the Sunday night. Yeah, and some of the bird life that's down there as well. Kiwi spotting's a bit of a thing on Stewart Island. We'll go off in our groups. We'll go out at 9 o'clock at night with a guide, and we'll go and hopefully you'll see kiwis in the wild whilst you're down there as well. They come out onto the beaches during the evenings as well, so you get to hopefully see them. And we're just at the tail end of the season for the Southern Lights as well, so we might get to see those while we're down there. They're prominent sort of March to October, early October, so that'll be quite a thing to see those in the night sky while we're down there. Pristine night skies. The stars are just absolutely incredible. They've got I can't remember what it's called now, that island's got a rating about its light pollution rating is quite amazing, and you can see stars like you've never seen before while down there. We're staying at the Stewart Island Backpackers. Seems to be quite a reasonable place. That's a picture of it there from their website. There's single rooms, double rooms, twin rooms, and there's dormitories with 3 and 4 beds in as well. So there's quite a range of options there for at the Backpackers. And whilst we're there as well, that group is used to catering for school and university groups, and we've booked a venue called the Pavilion, which is just by the Backpackers, and we've got that for the whole time whilst we're on the island. That's sole use for St Paul's, caters for up to 30 people, and in there it'll be our venue for our socialising. We'll have our meals together in there, we'll cook together in there, and basically that will be our base. Food, well, another job for term 3 is to plan the menu. What do you want to eat? What do you don't want to eat? So part of the experience will be getting together as a group and planning the food. And we pre-order it all, and it comes from the Foursquare on Oban, okay? Hence the cost of the trip, which I'll talk about in a moment. Okay, so that's where we will source our food from. There are some food outlets there. There's the local pub. I think there's a sort of van that does stuff, but it's, there's no Maccas or anything like that. It's a little bit limited. Okay, so how do you sign up? We're in this kind of space where we were saying 10 spaces. If we oversubscribe, we'll create a waiting list, and we'll do it like we do Cambodia. We'll do it on an interview basis, and priority for year 13s, and do it that way, because year 12s and 11s can go other years if we keep this trip running. But I'm not somebody that likes to turn people around, so if we've got more than 10 want to go, we'll just make it work. Okay, I think 20 is probably the limit, but I think we can manage that. And having spoken to the tourism operators today, they were very encouraging around that. Costs, it's not cheap to get down there. It's only, going to Cambodia for a fortnight was only 3,800, but that was 2 years ago. The prices have gone up a bit now. But So it is it's about $1,250 to get down there. That's if we take the Hamilton, Invercargill bus, ferry, and flying Oban back to Invercargill, and then those flights back to Hamilton. Okay, so about $1,250 approximately for the flights at the moment. Accommodation's about $400 for the 10 days, so that's reasonably cheap. I've budgeted food $80 a day per student, so we might not need all of that. I don't know what you're going to eat and how much of it you are going to eat, so we'll just see how that goes. The tourism stuff's around about $400, then tools and plants for the gardens itself, $50 each. Okay, that's based on 10 students going. If the numbers do rise, then expect the costs to reduce a little bit as well. So I've been really sort of liberal with that figure. So I'm not anticipating any surprises. In fact, hopefully a nice surprise by the time we get everything finalised in the next couple of weeks will be a little bit cheaper than 2,900 as well. And I don't think you're going to need a lot of spending money. There's nowhere to go shopping. Okay? So that's the cost. If you want to know more, if you're interested in this, there's sign-up letters here. A 2-page here. It's basically a bit of something in writing what I've just talked about here as well. A $500 deposit. We need to get those flights booked. There's flights on hold at the moment, and I want to get flights booked quite quickly. Hopefully within the next week, I'm aiming to get the group finalised by end of this week or end of next weekend, so we can get on and book flights and ferries and get everything sorted out. So that's the plan. So the information letter's there. You may have questions. Okay, if you think about any questions, I'm going to play one last short video and then raise any questions you have. And there's just a little bit more of the article. Okay, so a little snippet. Half Moon Bay is where the primary school is as well. And Oban's where we're staying, and the whole time there, as you can probably guess, you're not too far from the sea. Okay. If you've got any questions, shout them out now, or just stay behind and ask me, that's fine. Again, thanks for coming tonight. Hopefully it sort of generated a little bit of interest, and you might have more questions, so feel free to ask those. And sign-up letters are here. Kia ora. Thank you very much indeed.